working towards additive manufacturing, but also other techniques and technologies, having very, very high scale in spatial and temporal resolution. So that has great implications for how do we think about materials and objects that are truly, truly alive. So we're reducing the dimensional mismatch between the body, the building, and the environment.
In Vespers, we have shown how we have engineered an E. coli cell to recreate an Aztec indigo pigment. And then that pigment, which is biologically produced, recapitulates a culturally handmade, craft-made. Instead of culture emulating nature, we found that nature begins to emulate culture. That is a really interesting place for me right now. How does one define that intersection? And what are the boundaries between them? And how does one mitigate or mediate between them?
Vespers is a collection of death masks that are designed like life masks. And we take you from the physical world to the digital world to the biological world. So that kind of mediation between the past, the present, and the future. And then the future goes to the past, and then the cycle of life. And so what does it mean to contain this air on the body, in the building, and then reuse this air? And what does it mean to live amongst the dead? They say we constantly inhale the atoms of oxygen that Julius Caesar and Cleopatra and Nelson Mandela exhaled, and this is physically true.
We strive to achieve that intersection or language, controlling that language that allows us to program matter and program life, and then link between the ability to program between those two domains. For example, when people ask, what is it good for? Well, you can take it to a very spiritual dimension, the notion that a death mask can be an air memento or a biological urn that can contain part of your cherished one. And the techniques and the technologies that we developed for the death mask resulted in applications that are very real world, tissue engineering, etc. The lab allows us to design tools for problems we don't know yet exist. So the tools are looking for a solution. And so I think going out into the world with some of these projects and some of these technologies will require us not only to succumb to problems looking for tools, to be able to apply those tools in meaningful ways such that they redefine, re-question the typology that they're being applied to, whether it's a wearable or a building, and not doing it as it is usually done, but questioning the typology of that building or that structure based on the technology.
Same kind of principles that you've seen in the chair, in the helmets, in the dress are applied here, only instead of varying material properties, we're varying biological functionality. So we're controlling chemistry rather than just controlling material properties. Same principles, only a level deeper. In order to embed microorganisms in the body, we have to come up with computational algorithms that allow us to contain and direct the movement of those microorganisms in very high resolution. So I'm going to talk about one project that combines two microorganisms. First is the cyanobacteria that lives in fresh water ponds and oceans. It's 3.5 billion years old, so it's a very old technology. And the second microorganism is E. coli, and it lives in the human gut. So now, these two organisms, one lives in the ocean, the other lives in our gut, never interact in nature. And so here in this project, they're brought together, they're united by design to interact in a wearable device. I call this evolution by design. Designers now have control of evolution by natural selection, as it were. So cyanobacteria convert sunlight into sugar. E. coli consumes that sugar and produces biofuel. The biofuel can fuel your scooter, it can fuel the building. Think about it as a kind of an overall material ecology where one product fuels the other. So of course, in order to contain and direct their movement, we need to design systems that can do this. So you're looking at various systems that we've been exploring. In this particular case, this system is inspired by the gastrointestinal tract to design a kind of artificial digestive system for the human body that in the future potentially will interact with the digestive system. This hopefully will enter the architectural world where we can also digest, as it were, the human environment and correspond to it. So in this case, this was the container that contained our photosynthetic microorganisms. I like this video because you can see the photosynthetic organelles inside the microorganisms. We then computationally grew these structures on the human body such that they fit the geometry of the body, but they're also responding to the biological functionality that we want to generate. So the orange represents opaque material, the white represents transparent material. In the transparent areas, we place the cyanobacteria that takes on photosynthesis, so they need to be exposed to the light, hence the variation in opacity of the container. Unfolded end to end, this wearable digestive system spans 59, close to 60 meters. This is 10 times the length of the small intestines and half time the length of a football field, all folded into a single digestive system that is wearable and generates energy for free. If you consider that solar energy is for free, which is another ethical question. So this is the wearable device. You expose your body to the sun, you generate sugar cubes in your pocket. And I like to think of it as a kind of a wearable microbiome that in the future will be able also to filter some of the chemical and biological compounds in our own body, scan our bodies, and potentially also repair damaged tissue. Because we have such access to additive manufacturing and high resolution, high fidelity of heterogeneous materialities, we can today compete with the analysis protocols. So in the past, when you would design a car, you would have access to computational fluid dynamics to be able to establish the optimal form of a building or a car wearable. But today, we could do that synthetically. So not only use a high-dimensional, high-resolution analytic tool, but also develop high-dimensional, high-resolution synthetic tools. And we can match between analysis and synthesis in very, very high resolution. This will allow us to produce better prosthetic devices, building skins, wearables that correspond and respond to the body. And this is just a teaser for one of the collection of wearables that we're about to launch in my lab that shows you how we can scan the face and compute the final breath before we die.